The ship was perfectly fine. The food was fresh, the cargo was untouched. There was enough water on board to last 6 months. The crew's belongings were sitting exactly where they had left them. And yet, when rescuers climbed aboard the Mary Celeste in December of 1872, there was not a single living person anywhere on the ship. No bodies, no blood, no signs of a struggle, no explanation. Just an empty vessel, drifting through the Atlantic as if everyone had simply stepped off the edge of the world. For 150 years, no one could explain it. The Mary Celeste became the ghost ship, the ultimate maritime mystery. Theories multiplied for generations: pirates, mutiny, sea monsters, paranormal events, government conspiracies. Arthur Conan Doyle, the man who created Sherlock Holmes, wrote a fictional account of it in 1884 that millions of people mistook for fact. The real story became so tangled in legend that separating truth from invention felt almost impossible. But buried inside the original investigation reports, inside the chemistry of what that ship was carrying, and inside a laboratory experiment conducted in 2006, the answer had been hiding in plain sight. And it changes everything you think you know about what happened on that ship. The Mary Celeste left New York Harbor on November the 7th, 1872. She was a 2-masted brigantine, 103 feet long, recently renovated at a cost of $10,000. Her captain was 37-year-old Benjamin Briggs of Marion, Massachusetts, raised in a seafaring family, considered one of the most respected and level-headed captains working the Atlantic route. He was not a man who panicked. He was not a man who drank. He had handpicked his 7 crew members himself, and against the advice of some colleagues, he had brought his wife Sarah and their 2-year-old daughter Sophia along for the voyage. The cargo was 1,701 barrels of denatured industrial alcohol bound for Genoa, Italy. It was the first time Briggs had ever transported alcohol. Before departure, he had dinner with a close friend and fellow captain, David Morehouse. According to later accounts, Briggs mentioned that he was uneasy about the cargo, that it worried him, that unease would prove to be the most important detail of the entire story. The ship sailed into 2 weeks of brutal Atlantic storms. The last entry in the ship's log was recorded at 8 in the morning on November 25th, 1872. The Mary Celeste was 6 miles northeast of Santa Maria Island in the Azores. Land was visible. Everything according to the log was fine. 10 days later, on December the 5th, Morehouse, the same man who had shared that dinner with Briggs, spotted the Mary Celeste drifting aimlessly 400 miles from where she should have been. He sent a boarding party. What they found stopped them cold. No crew, no captain, no sign of struggle. The lifeboat was gone. One of the 2 pumps had been disassembled. 3.5 feet of seawater sloshed in the cargo hold and scattered among the 1,700 barrels of alcohol. 9 barrels that were completely empty. Not damaged, not broken, just empty. Here is the detail that nobody paid enough attention to for over a century. Those 9 empty barrels were not random. Every single one of them was made of red oak. The other barrels, the ones still full, were made of white oak. And any carpenter or barrel maker in 1872 could have told you the difference. Red oak is porous, white oak seals. 9 red oak barrels carrying industrial alcohol on a ship crossing the Atlantic in November would have leaked. Not catastrophically, not all at once. But steadily, silently, over the course of 18 days at sea, enough alcohol would have evaporated into the enclosed cargo hold to create something extraordinarily dangerous. A cloud of invisible, odorless, highly combustible vapor, building up below decks with nowhere to go. That is when, in 2006, Dr. Andrea Seller, a professor of chemistry at University College London, decided to find out exactly what would happen next. He built a scale replica of the Mary Celeste's cargo hold. He sealed it. He introduced butane gas to simulate the alcohol vapors, and then he introduced a spark. The result was not what anyone expected. There was an explosion, a massive one. A ball of flame tore through the replica hold with tremendous force, powerful enough to blow the hatches open. And then, nothing. When the smoke cleared, not a single paper cube representing the wooden barrels showed any sign of burning. No scorch marks, no soot, no char. The wood surrounding the blast was completely untouched. What Dr. Seller had created was a pressure wave explosion. A flash of superheated gas expanding outward at incredible speed, with relatively cool air following right behind it. Terrifying enough to feel like the ship was about to disintegrate. Violent enough to blow open the heavy cargo hatch covers. Loud enough to be heard across the deck. And yet, leaving absolutely no physical evidence behind. Every trace of it would have evaporated within minutes. By the time investigators boarded the ship 10 days later, there was nothing left to find. No soot, no burn marks, no proof. Which is exactly why no one believed an explosion had occurred. Now the reconstruction becomes clear. 18 days into the voyage, fumes had been building for days. Briggs likely smelled them. The ship's log mentions rumbling sounds from the hold, sounds that alcohol cargo commonly makes as pressure builds. At some point, something provided a spark, 2 barrels shifting against each other, a crew member opening a hatch with a lantern. Whatever it was, the pressure wave detonated. The hatch covers blew off with a sound like a cannon. Flames shot upward through the opening, and Captain Briggs, a man who had told his friend he was already nervous about this cargo, made an instant decision: get everyone off the ship. Now. He did not abandon the Mary Celeste. He evacuated her. There is a crucial difference. A broken rope was found hanging over the ship's railing. The tow line that would have connected the lifeboat to the ship. The plan was almost certainly to trail behind the vessel in the lifeboat at a safe distance and wait. Wait for the fumes to clear. Wait for the danger to pass, then climb back aboard and continue to Genoa. It was a rational decision by an experienced captain who believed he was seconds away from a catastrophic explosion. He brought the sextant. He brought the navigation documents. He was not fleeing forever. He was buying time. But the Atlantic had other plans. With one pump disassembled, Briggs had no way to know that the water in the hold, just 3.5 feet, not enough to sink the ship, was not the emergency he may have feared. And somewhere between the lifeboat and the horizon, the tow line snapped. Maybe a wave. Maybe the knot wasn't tight enough in the panic. Maybe the wind suddenly shifted. Whatever the reason, the Mary Celeste caught a breeze, and she sailed. Away from them. Growing smaller. Until she was gone. 10 people in a small lifeboat in the middle of the North Atlantic in November, watching their ship disappear. They were never seen again. The Mary Celeste herself kept sailing for another 13 years. She changed owners half a dozen times. In 1885, her final captain deliberately wrecked her into a reef off Haiti as part of an insurance fraud scheme. She was left to deteriorate on the coral. Her wreck has never been definitively found, and so both the ship and the people who sailed her vanished in the end into the same sea. What the chemistry tells us is not a story of supernatural horror or nautical conspiracy. It is something sadder and more human than that. A careful man who had a bad feeling about a dangerous cargo, who followed every instinct a captain is trained to follow, who got everyone off the ship alive, and then lost them to a snapped rope and a sudden wind. The Mary Celeste was not a ghost ship. It was a tragedy measured in seconds, in vapor pressure, and in the length of a tow line. If stories like this one pull you in, hit subscribe. We find the science hiding inside history's greatest mysteries, and we are just getting started.